Credit card usage in Australia has never been higher. Following a brief decline during COVID-19, our spending in Australia on credit cards has surged to almost $35 billion per month. That's almost 20% higher than it was pre-pandemic, according to money.com. Welcome to Dollars and Dreams, the podcast designed to empower you to take control of your personal and business finance. You know, the very thought of money and finance can often send chills down your spine and stir up fear of the unknown. But let's change that narrative together. Through this podcast, my goal is to not only to provide you with useful information, but also to inspire and motivate you to take action towards your own financial goals. Let's rewrite your money story together. Welcome to today's episode of Dollars and Dreams. In today's episode, I'm going to go through the good, the bad, and the ugly of credit cards. And with 13.44 million credit cards actively being used in Australia at the moment, this is something that we need to understand. After Christmas, some of us may find that we've got a credit card debt that we were not expecting or hoping not to have. And statistics will tell us that there are people still paying off their Christmas card debt into April, May and June. So 6 months after Christmas has happened, people are still paying back that debt. And of course, as we all know, the interest rates on credit card for our debts that aren't paid in time is fairly significant. So the purchase of that present that you bought somebody or the goods that you bought is now not that purchase price. It's the purchase price plus the interest that you are going to pay. So it is important that if you are going to use your credit card, that you know how to use it correctly and that you don't rack up interest on that credit card purchases. I want to be very clear here that credit cards aren't the evil thing, and credit cards have a place in society. It's the user of the credit card that is creating the issue. So most credit cards have an interest-free period, and if you pay your credit card in that time, there is no interest charges. And it's important that you understand the credit card that you have and the terms and conditions that you've signed up to by taking out that credit card. So some other statistics. The average transaction value on credit cards in Australia is $113. There's an average of 22 transactions per month. Now remember, these are averages, so some people may have a lot more and other people have a lot less. But 22 transactions on average per month means that most people are using their credit card close to daily. The other things is the average credit card debt in Australia is about $3,000. It's just over $3,000. And as I said, there's 13.4 million credit cards actively being used in Australia. The average transactions is about 35 billion per month across all of those credit cards. The average balance that is accruing interest is just over $1,300. So again, that doesn't sound like a lot. The average is $1,300, but we need to multiply that by 13 million to find out how much is sitting there earning interest for the banks. There's a very good reason that banks are making record profits. Every 6 months when they announce their profit, we hear it time and time again that it's a record profit and it's billions of dollars. The reason that banks are making that is it's not necessarily home loans, which is what everybody thinks. It's things like credit cards and transactions that happen outside of the home loan. Not to say that home loans don't add to the bank's profit, but it's more these types of things. So interest rates on credit cards, as we know, can be upwards of 20-25%. So every time you don't pay your balance off by the due date, you are being charged interest. As I said at the start, it's really important that you understand the terms and conditions. So when you take out a credit card, they will tell you all the rules that are applicable for when they charge interest, what your interest-free period are, what your interest rate is, and things like that. So that is on you as the person that has taken out a loan. And let me be very clear here. A credit card is a loan that you have taken out with the bank, and it's what we call a revolving loan. So if you pay off $200, you then have $200 that you can use, and it's not a pay down like it is with a home loan or a personal loan. So if you max out your credit card and you only pay your minimum, the statistics of how much interest you will pay are quite phenomenal because it is such a high interest rate. So according to money.com.au, there is now 20% higher use of credit cards than we were pre-pandemic. And that's probably one, because of the cost of living increases, interest rates and things that we've done. But also during the pandemic, we got very good at using online shopping. And of course, online shopping, we tend to use credit cards and obviously debit cards to a lesser degree. The impact that credit cards have on your borrowing capacity if you want to get a home loan or a personal loan or an investment loan is quite significant. And one of the first things we do here in our business is when people are looking for home loans is we reduce their credit limit, because the banks, when they're looking at lending you money for home loans or investment loans, they have to look that you are going to max out your credit limit. And the only thing that they have to take into account then is that you will pay the minimum on your credit card. Whether or not you use it is irrelevant, because once you have that loan, you can max out your credit card. So it's always important that if you're going to go for a loan, that you either get rid of credit cards if you're not using them or reduce the limit, because that will increase your borrowing capacity quite significantly. So let's go through some of the good, because I like to start with the positives. Credit cards have a place, and I'm just going to put this out here. I am a credit card user. I love my credit card. In fact, I absolutely put everything on my credit card. I don't use a debit card at all. The reason that I do that is I like to have everything in one place. I can see what my daily spending is. I've got good control over my money. And yes, I would if I had a bank account, but it is much easier for me to use it and see what my spending is. So for me, it's great control over what I'm spending. The other reason that I use a credit card is because I have a reward system going, and I convert mine to flight credits, because that way then my overseas holidays are paid by my shopping. There's other things you can do. You don't have to do flight credits. You can do gift vouchers. And in fact, two of the girls in the office were saying the other day that they cash in their credit card points at Christmas every year and buy all their Christmas shopping with those credit card points. So for them, Christmas shopping has come free. The important thing to remember when you're using any reward points on your credit card is that you don't spend anything more than you would have spent if you used a debit card. So again, that comes back to user control over your credit card. And if you are, just at your daily shopping, your petrol, your groceries, your insurances, your subscriptions or your streaming services, you put on your credit card and you accrue points to use later on, then it's a great way of getting free things. It's a great way of you not having to find money to, do your Christmas shopping or things like that. And I say inside my course, My Money Makeover, I absolutely hate buying linen. It's the one thing that I hate spending my money on. So I have a credit card now. I've got two credit cards, just so everybody is full disclosure here. One of them, which is the one that I use all the time, is where I accrue my flight points. I have a second one that I use for just random things. And that one, I accrue points on it and I convert it to vouchers, shopping vouchers. And that is the one that I update my linen every year with. So, when we need new beach towels, bath towels, sheets, and those sorts of things, because as I said, it's just one of those things that I resent spending money on. So for me, I'm not buying anything different. That credit card's not used too often. It's usually just when I'm buying things that is just retail shopping that I don't want to put on my other card. And so with that one, when I'm accruing those points at the end of the year or 2 years when I need to replace my linen, I go and convert those points to vouchers, and then I go and buy the linen with it. As I said, the important thing is not to buy more to get whatever your vouchers are or whatever your credit card rewards are. The secret is just to make them a bonus. The other reason that I like to use credit as opposed to my debit is the buyer protection that comes with a credit card. So if you were using a debit card and somebody gets hold of your number or anything on some of the sites, it's much more difficult to get any buyer protection. So you've got to prove that a lot more with a debit card to get the money back. And of course, credit cards, you just ask your credit card provider to review your purchase, and they go back to the buyer and ask the buyer to show that we verified that purchase. So it's a lot easier if your card is fraudulently used in credit cards as opposed to debit cards to get your money back. The other thing is quite often with credit cards, and my credit card is one of those, you get extended warranties with it. So if I go and buy a television and I put it on my credit card, the warranty issue might be 12 months. My credit card lender will then give me another 12 months on top of that. So for me, the real pros are I accrue bonus points, I have buyer protection, and I have a lot more control over where I spend my money. I must point out to you that using my credit card, I make sure that I actually don't go over my budget for what I can spend each month. So it's not a tap and hope and then get a surprise at the end of the month when my statement comes. I actually have my credit card on my phone as an app, and I'm on there quite regularly looking at what my spending is, so that one, I'm looking to see if anything fraudulent has happened on my credit card, but also two, to keep track of my spending to make sure I don't overspend. I would look at my credit card on my app, on my phone, at least daily. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 times, just because if this time of the year, I'm making sure that I'm not going over my budget. So for me, they're the pros of a credit card. And as I said, full disclosure, I spend everything on it. Even when I go to the shop, when we've run out of milk, I go and tap my credit card so I can see what has gone on there. So what are the cons of a credit card? And of course, the big one is most people have a lot less control over their spending. So you do need to be a lot more strict with when you're tapping a credit card, because if you've got money sitting in a bank account, and we talk about all the time the 6 bank accounts you need, so you have the luxury and your everyday spending. When you have your money in those, you are just tapping them, and when it runs out, it's run out, you can't use any more. The way I get around that with my 6 bank accounts is what I do is when my money comes into my everyday spending, I transfer that straight to my credit card, because I know then that the amount that I've set aside is on my credit card waiting for me to use for the month, but I track my credit card to make sure I haven't gone over it. That for me is a little bit unique because I'm a money person and I have probably more control than most people over where I'm spending my money. So if you are not one of those people that can look and say, well, I've allocated $300 in my everyday spending, so I can only spend $300 on my credit card, do not use your credit card. Use your debit card for your 6 bank accounts. And that is really important. For me, those 6 bank accounts are there as holding accounts, and I transfer to my credit card as opposed to transferring it to, my electricity supplier or my water supply company. I just have it come onto my credit card, and each time that comes on that night, I will transfer. So as an example, my car registration and insurance and green slip was due just before Christmas, I knew they needed to be paid on a certain date. So the day before, I transferred out of my bills account to that credit card, and then the next day I put it on the credit card. That way I was still using the same amount that I'd set aside in my bills account, but I accrued points by using my credit card. So the ugly side of credit cards is that you spend more than you are able to afford. And of course, when we spend cash or when we see the bank account coming down like we do in our 6 bank accounts, that registers in the pain center of our brain. So we feel it more than we do when we tap on a credit card. So we can overspend on a credit card. You also need to be very careful because some credit card providers will allow you to go over your limit. So let's say you've set your limit at $1,000 because you know that's all you can afford in a month on a credit card. If you get to $1,000 or $998 and you walk in to buy some groceries and that's $200, some lenders of credit cards will let you go over your limit. You need to make sure that your credit card lender does not allow you to go over. The argument that they will have, and I had this argument with a lender only fairly recently, is that they let you go over because they don't want you to be embarrassed in standing in a shop. That is not the case. The case is that they want you to spend more because then you are over what you probably can afford and you will more likely pay interest. Be very careful that your credit card provider does not allow you to go over your limit, and take control yourself and set a limit to what you can afford. Don't let the lender tell you, oh, you can afford $10,000 or $5,000. Because that is you not having control over the money. That is the lender having control over you. So make sure that you set your limit. Do not go over your balance. Do not go over anything. And where it is your bills that you are paying on your credit card, make sure you transfer the money from your bills account the day before into the credit card before you spend. So there is an extra step there. I do understand that with using a credit card instead of just coming out of your bills account. But if you have a card that creates points for you, then that's a way that you can get some benefit from it. The ugly side also of credit cards is, as I said earlier, the interest rate is ridiculously high. And that's because it's what we call an unsecured loan. So the lender, the bank that's issued you the credit card, does not have an ability to come in and take goods like they do if you have a loan for a car. So if you default on a car repayment, the lender can come in and take your car to sell it to get their money back. They can't do that with a credit card, and that's why it's called unsecured, because the loan isn't secured by any goods. Because they take a greater risk that they won't get their money or that they've got to chase you for money, that's why they have a high interest rate. Now, if you've got into difficulty with your credit card, the thing that you need to do is to stop using it, firstly. The second thing that you need to look at is, rather than paying interest on that credit card, you need to look at doing what we call a balance transfer account. And so there's credit cards out there that you can do a balance transfer. So let's say your credit card is with Commonwealth Bank. You can go to, say, Westpac and say, I want to get a balance transfer. They will pay out your Commonwealth Bank credit card, and then they give you a set period of time to have that card, the balance that was transferred, interest-free. So when that card comes across, and some of them are 12 months, some are 24 months, some are 36 months, it means that in that time you can pay off that credit card without paying interest. There are catches to those, and some of the catches are, of course, if you use that, you get a credit card interest charge from when you pay that supplier for the new purchase. So if you do a balance transfer, you need to be very strict that you never use that account and you stop using credit. This is not a way of finding you purchases, so that you can keep extending using money you can't afford. It's a way of getting you out of the difficulty you found yourself in. The problem I see with credit cards is that people that are paying interest on their credit cards means that they have bought things that they cannot afford. They are spending money that they do not have. And that is the bank's money you're spending. It is not your money. So it's really important that when you look at the ugly side of credit cards is that you do overspend. If you are going to have a credit card, you need to have good control over your spending. And that's the end of that story. Do not spend money you do not have. Remember, when we are spending money, it's important that we save for them. We get our emergency fund set aside and we do all of that. So the ugly of credit cards. So we've done the good and the bad. The ugly of credit card is debt is that for most people that aren't paying off their credit card in full each month, so are being charged interest, that then puts them under financial hardship because they never get ahead, particularly people that pay the minimum. And I don't know what credit card companies do this. I know some do and some don't. But if you ever look at your statement, sometimes down in the bottom, it'll say, if you pay the minimum amount of this statement, it will take you X amount of years to pay it off. And this is the interest that you will pay. And if your credit card statement does that, I urge you to have a look down the bottom and see what that balance looks like in terms of credit for you. The ugly side of credit card debt is it can sneak up on you. You know, if you're just tapping away, you don't know how much you're spending. You're not hearing the bip when it declines like it does with a debit card when you've run out of money. The ugly side of it is that people are being caught by marketers with FOMO. And the one thing that I urge you, if you are struggling with credit card debt, apart from what I've just talked about, is if you do online shopping, quite often those online shopping stores will store your credit card. The reason they do that is not as a convenience for you, because if you have to get off the lounge and go and get your credit card out of your wallet, come back and enter that 16 numbers, the expiry date and the CCV number, you will more than likely think about whether you want that purchase or not. And you may not buy because that stops you buying straight away. So do not ever put onto any shopping carts or shopping sites your credit card. It is not a convenience for you. It is a convenience for them because you are more than likely just to hit the button, which is, pay now or whatever that term is that each retailer puts on their site. So the ugly side of credit card is also the impact it can have on our relationships. Because as we know, credit card debt is a form of lending. It's a form of financial strain, and it is something that will create issues in our relationships. There's people that actually have sneaky credit cards that their partners don't know about. And sometimes that can be because your partner has financial control over you, so you want to have something so that you can have a bit of a running away from home account. It can be that you may have that sneaky credit card because you want to be able to buy things without your partner putting strain on you. I urge you, if you are one of those people, that it's not that your partner has that relationship with you. It is the fact that you guys have not sat down and talked about money and how you feel about it and set a budget together. Now, that is the bigger issue, and credit cards can sometimes bring out the bigger issue of what's happening inside your relationships when it comes to money. So the things that I need you to look at with your credit cards is, firstly, go and have a look what your terms are. Look at whether you've got a interest-free period from when you buy things to when you have to pay it. Have a look if there's any reward points. Have a look if yours is a no-frills credit card, which has a lower interest rate. Now, there's times that, there's hundreds and hundreds of different credit cards on the market. What credit card suits you is what you need to look at. So there's credit cards that have all the bells and whistles, have all the reward points, have the 55 days interest free. They may have an annual charge. So you need to look at whether you need that 55 days interest free or you need those reward points to work out whether that charge is worthwhile for you. Mine personally doesn't have a annual charge because it's connected to my home loan. And of course, they're collecting enough off me from my interest on my home loan. But it does have the reward points and it does have the 55 days interest free. So if I put something today on my credit card, that doesn't mean I have 55 days from today. It means I have 55 days from the start of my credit card statement period. So for me, I think my credit card rolls on about the 24th or 25th of each month. So I have 55 days from that day, not 55 days from when I buy something. And that's really important that you understand how that 55 days interest free works. Some credit cards don't have a 55-day or any interest-free period, but then they probably don't have an annual charge. So if you're just using it to get reward points or you're using it because you want that buyer protection and you won't use it for anything else, then that's probably the card for you because you will put the money onto your card the day before you go and purchase something like I did with my car rego and insurance. So that one may be better for you. It generally will have a lower interest rate because they'll charge you interest as soon as you put the money onto your card. So that's not one that you would use on a daily basis because you would be paying interest unnecessarily. So there's lots of fors and against with all of your credit cards. If you want to jump over to our website at jenrichardson.co, we do have a checklist for credit cards that you need to look at to see how your credit card fits in with all those different features. I've also going to have a course up in the next couple of months on credit cards and how to control it. So if you're struggling with credit cards or you just want to understand credit cards more, keep an eye out on our website for my credit card training that is coming very soon. So just to wrap up this podcast, what I want you to have a look at is your credit card. Have a look whether you're paying a balance. If you have a debt on your credit card because of your last few weeks of Christmas spending and things, think about a balance transfer account to get you out of the strife that you are in. I urge you to use a credit card as a tool to give you better financial control or get things for reward points. I do not think anybody should use a credit card as a facility to buy things that they can't afford. So if you pay $1 interest on your credit card, it means that your purchases have cost you more than what you bought them for, and it is then transferring your wealth from you to a bank, and the banks have enough profits. They don't need your hard-earned money. If you're not quite sure how to deal with credit cards, reach out to me over at jenrichardson.co, or you can make a comment where you're watching this podcast. Credit cards, as I said, are a great tool if you have control over your money. They are not a great tool if you do not have control and you are putting yourself in a worse situation financially. So that's it for me for today. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you very soon over on Dollars and Dreams. Remember, the advice shared in Dollars and Dreams is general in nature and it does not consider your own personal circumstances. Dollars and Dreams is for educational purposes only and should not be relied upon to make investment or financial decisions. If you need more help, please reach out to a financial advisor for tailored personal advice. Don't forget to click that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future content. And please leave me a review. Your feedback really helps me to reach other people chasing their money dreams. You can find me over on Facebook and Instagram to connect with me. You will find the link in the bio or head over to my website at jenrichardson.co where you will find free content and learning tools.